Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of We Speak here on the NASM and AFAA social media channels. My name is Katrina Pilkington, and today we are going to be speaking about connecting in virtual spaces. Now, we've talked a lot about virtual training, virtual teaching, but when it comes to connecting with our clients and our students, what do we truly do to connect and keep that connection, even though spatially we are disconnected? I always say we're socially connected, but spatially distant. So allow me to introduce my two guests here with me today to have a little chit chat about this very topic. First of all, we have Miss Kia Williams, my good friend and beautiful friend over there. She is a global fitness presenter, educator, and podcaster whose career mission is to support people who are affected by marginalization in jobs, education, healthcare, and lack of representation in the fitness industry. She is an AFAA or AFA certified group fitness instructor and master instructor, educating fitness professionals in multiple formats. Kia is committing to helping others live a healthy lifestyle by maintaining a strong, fit, and balanced mind and body. Welcome, Miss Kia.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And then before I dive into our conversation, I'm going to also introduce you to a face you might have seen here on our channels, Ms. Mary Chris Lepa. I don't ever say your last name right. Lepa?
So technically it's French, so it's Lape, but I say Lape.
I totally had it wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. My beautiful friend who you've probably seen on our newest virtual coaching program commercial and a lot of our Optima advertisements. She is an NASM certified personal trainer and the CEO of Mary Chris. I'm going to say it wrong again. LePay.
Go for it. Come on. Yes.
You've seen her in our content. She holds NASM specializations in women's fitness, corrective exercise, and is also a certified nutrition coach. She believes that total health and wellness is about being strong in life, not just in the gym. And she also coaches her clients to understand that day-to-day elements are important on their health and fitness journey, inside and outside in our functional world. She works daily to inspire others to live with in a positive mindset, and also recognize that health and fitness is a blessing to have and absorb in our life every single day. So now that I've made my way through our introductions, let's go ahead and dive into our content with Mary Chris and Kia here as I allow them to share some of what they've been doing in this world since, what day is it? March 497? I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah.
So both of you I know teach and also train virtually, which we can talk about, we've talked about on both channels. But what I want to talk about today is connecting virtually. So can you both just kind of touch on for me what you do currently in this world of spatial disconnectivity in fitness?
Yes.
Mari Chris, you want to take it away?
I will, I guess, yeah. Yeah, so, with the shift of everything, just been training online virtually, making that shift like everyone else. And I think the biggest thing is learning the different ways to connect really, before, I'm huge on social media presence and Instagram, and it really just opened up this other door, right? Everyone's like, what do? I need to find people. Everyone's doing lives, but I feel like you got more engagement. You really got to understand people more. And as you go through your own journey, like even for me personally, a little example of, my back's hurting from these different exercises. Let me just foam roll. I don't care what I look like. Let me just see if people just really want some good content. Ends up being some of the biggest content that I have on my page. And you get this interaction in your DMs like, thank you so much. This helps me in my day to day, with me being at home with the kids, the quick, easy things. I think you start to really understand just what people really want. And it gives you guidance as what you need to put out there to support your clients. Because sometimes I feel like it might be a long shot. And I think that's what, as trainers, when we first really started in this pandemic, it's like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know how to shift. But as you start to put more out, you start to get this feedback, you start to create this connection, you start to realize you actually have a specific audience. And that's when people continue to get drawn into you. And you just have this, wider audience to take care of, really.
Right. So you primarily, though, train one-on-one clients. And then you also, I know, teach live Instagram live classes, right?
Yeah. And so I have, at first I will admit I didn't think it was going to last this long. So I was on a mini vacation and then I was like, oh no, this is real. Like, this is absolutely real. Have to shift completely. And I approached my clients to say, if you want to continue, let's go online. And I think the greatest thing of connecting is because you're not really sure about their experience, but having had clients that started in person and then transitioned online, it was such a great feedback to just randomly hear one day. As I was telling them, I'm looking to take on new clients. They're like, yeah, I love it. They're like, I don't really see a difference in training in person or online. Obviously, there's that touch element, being able to adjust them. Like, I love that. That's great feedback for certain people who need that. But the connection, the jokes that we have, has not changed. It's the same thing. They're like, let me tell you what I did this weekend. And they're still bringing their like grandson to the camera for me to say, look who's here today. And it's very human. And, for my new clients that just started online, to hear like, I look forward to this every week because now I have someone to like talk to, a different meeting. Like, you don't realize how big of a role you play. You come to serve, in the realm of fitness, but you also don't realize how you're playing an aspect in the other parts of their lives, which is why I say fitness is a 24-hour thing, mentally, physically. They tell you like, I have big meetings today, and you start to learn like, well, you're like, do you want to get it over with in the day? And they're like, no, I need it at night. I need to blow that steam off. So they start to adjust. And I've just loved seeing how people have really embraced it. They're like, well, I have nothing better to do. But now they're like, I start to see like their logins on my fitness pal. I'm like, oh, they're just running on their own. Like, we were talking about this, and you just kind of see how it's just become a part of their day to day. And as far as Instagram lives, you start out just teaching, and you get a feel for the audience and what they do, and they like to play, and it holds me accountable. I have to work. And even when I'm tired, I'm like, I'm going to teach you guys a real lesson. Homegirl struggling over here with this workout. But
we're going to touch on the part about energy, because I have that on my list of things to talk about. So we're going to talk about that because that is interesting in this space as far as finding the energy from those that you teach. So awesome. Thanks, Mary Chris. What about you, Tia? What are you doing in the space of fitness right now virtually?
Well, I pivoted the catchphrase or the word of the year. I pivoted my entire business to online. Although COVID-19 was not a part of my contingency plan, I don't think any of us saw that coming. When we follow larger businesses or even the arts, like literature, we saw a lot of that going digital, DJs started doing things online. Musicians, our favorite musicians, started having concerts on HBO or on their own websites and everything. So we saw the signs of a change in the industry coming. So with the organizations that I was with prior to now, I was trying to get them to get on board with the whole virtual classes. And there was some trepidation, some fear of, will the virtual classes take away from the in-person classes? And as much research that I tried to support my argument of no, it will only heighten it. It will only complement it in a better way. It took some time for people to get on board with that. So COVID-19 and the whole stay-at-home mandate sort of forced a lot of people to it. So I'm grateful that, I am still young and fresh in the mind, that new things don't scare me. Like that whole technology thing doesn't scare me, that I do want to be a part of it. I do want to be a part of being progressive and innovative in the fitness industry. So I had a head start, I would like to say. I've done my research and everything, but nonetheless, it was still sort of startling that it took a huge external environmental change or shift to make all of this happen, to make this shift in business and shift in practice to happen. And because I pride myself on being a responsible service provider and taking care of my community, to see the impact of a global pandemic on them, it was a scary thing, but I had to shape up. It's my job to take good care of my people, and I want to. And in turn, they pay it forward. They take care of me too. I've been invited to so many Thanksgiving dinners, although I make myself very clear that I am physically distancing because I don't want to take my chances. But I thank you all. I thank you all for wanting to feed me and keep food on my table. But we had to dive in quickly to do a needs-based assessment based on the consumer's needs, consumers' demands. And of course, they wanted their classes, the live classes that they were doing with us in person. So I got on board with this online platform called Homeroom Fit, homeroomfit.com, and was able to take all of my classes, my bar classes, kickboxing, hip hop, yoga classes onto this platform so people could find me a one-stop shop. Because when it comes to technology, we want to keep it easy, no matter the age of your demographic or your consumer or customer rather, customer base. You want to, if I can make it one click and they're there, great. Because the last thing they want to do is feel like it's a task or another chore. Because remember, kid, I used to just be able to park my car and walk in. Okay, how do I keep it simple for them? You're at home, so the comfort of your own home, just click this one button and there I am on your screen. And doing my due diligence of making sure I had my FAQs, because this is something new. We're zooming and booming and using all of these other Skypes and stuff. But I know that there are so many other opportunities out there. So many other instructors have pivoted and gone completely online. And maybe they're not using the same platform as me. And maybe my customer base are taking classes with them and with me as well. But how do I still keep it simplistic for them so that we're not creating additional barriers to entry when it comes to fitness? So I did a lot of research and a lot of business planning to make sure I broke down those barriers, because I want to meet my people where they're at. So yeah, I took all of my classes online to homeroomfit.com. I beefed up my social media presence because that's my main source of communication and advertisement, for letting people know where we are, what are the changes in the schedules, what's new, how else can they engage and get involved. And it's truly been a good success. People are really enjoying being social. Even though we're physically distant, we're still very much so socially involved with each other.
That's why I hate saying hate. I dislike the term social distancing because we are not socially distant, we're physically distant. So how do we stay socially connected while being spatially distant? And I know, I'm a little different from the two of you, where I actually moved during this whole pandemic, and I don't have I have my office, but usually my husband's in here working. I don't have a dedicated space to teach. So I teach very rarely. But I now do a lot more speaking and a lot more online coaching, a lot more educating in that space. So like we've said, we've all had to pivot. So what I want to ask the two of you is, what do you feel is the biggest thing that's been a change for you going from being in person to being virtual when it comes to your specific students or clients? So I know, for example, Mary Chris has actually been, like myself, nomadic in this whole process. And even you, Kia, now that I think about it, we've all physically been flying around the country, figuring out where to land. So how did that shift your relationship specifically with your clients or students that you currently had in person, now moving virtual? Mary Chris.
Yeah, I think it hasn't been too much of a shift in terms of, a lot of them got comfortable with that first. I think the scary thing at first was, when I decided that I wanted to keep my vacation going in Florida, for example, was, my client, a couple that I had was planning on me coming home, for example, right, and quarantine and then be back. And it was the scary thing of, at the top of everything happening, they didn't want to do online training. But turns out when I was like, okay, I have to do this for me. A majority of my clients are online. I do want to make this move. I had this conversation with them. And thankfully, I had a couple sessions with them in person where he's like, no, I actually just wanted you to meet my wife and be comfortable, but we love you as a trainer. Everything's great. Because at first it was like, I was stressed because the Zoom connection wasn't going well, but they had kids in school and it was disconnecting. I'm like, is this ruining the experience? Am I still providing something good? And luckily, when we're talking about this connecting, they loved me enough as a trainer. They're like, no, this is great. We'll figure out the tech. So now we FaceTime, and we learn that sometimes we have to use a hotspot. So I think, when it comes to making that transition, and it's still very new to everybody, it's recognizing all the different platforms, like he was saying, understand what works best for your client, what's going to make it easier. Some clients, they just want to Zoom with me, but they do it on their phone. Some have to have a laptop. So keeping that in mind and just really looking to keep them calm, provide an experience. And when you're focused on that, I think everything else will sort itself out. So I will say that probably was the biggest transition, but they ended up signing on and continuing on with a package. So I think the biggest barrier more so is, you know, when he's talking about amping up your social media presence, it's like recognizing that is your gym that you're walking every day, where you have to show up. And that's why you're looking to collab with these different, you know, magazines and wellness companies. And while it's a little scary and unfamiliar, I think this has been my best year as far as outreach, the ability to reach different companies. It's just widened the net for that. And so it's really, I think, as a trainer, your responsibility of recognizing like, who is your audience, who do you want to serve, and really understanding the message that you're putting on there, because people can get confused about what it is that you're doing. But um, online, I think the great thing is you can be anywhere, but it's just about having that consistent experience. And then when they do see you, if you're coaching live, like, okay, that's an experience that I get to see with her. And what I love about it is that, you know, my shift online, I used to mix up between posting pictures and motivational quotes and also exercises. But what I see more is that these exercises take, at least from my experience, and these lives, because they get a feel for your personality. Because a big barrier that you're breaking online, especially if you look a certain way as a fitness professional and not all your clients want to be promoted online, is they're like, what is it going to be like training with her? Can she really take care of me? And that authenticity is very important online. And I know we're going to touch on energy, but that's why I'm like, I'm going to be transparent with y'all. Like, I know I said we're doing these side to side or like plank jacks, homegirl struggling though. And it just makes it real for them, and it welcomes them, and, you know, lets them know that there's different levels that you're going to navigate each day. Oh, you're on mute. I was like, I can't hear you.
Did it again. So the biggest thing I know for you is like transitioning those clients to a comfortable place. Cause I do agree, as I've even done panels myself, realizing that when you have everybody on the Wi-Fi, it can mess up all of the things and all of the connections. So making sure to find what works best, whether it's inside or outside. And then also, and I agree with that, like having the realization that we have a captive audience that's, I guess you can say captive. I mean, watching you online and being in that shared space. Have you experienced that same thing, Kia?
Yeah, very much so, similar to what Mary Chris is talking about with the shift and transitioning. From a business standpoint, I feel like my brand has been globalized. There's been a huge
Mhm.
globalization of being able to reach more people than ever before. Um, Before the pandemic, people would have to wait until conference season or for that conference train to come to their local area for them to engage with you or your classes, unless you already had, you know, videos on demand online that they could take with you. But to get that in-person experience, if they don't live in your community or go to the 1, 2, or 3 gyms that you teach at, how else could they engage with you? So this has definitely created more accessibility, I think, for our consumers to engage with our brand and our products. But as Mary Chris was saying, it's very important that your language, your tone is authentic to the community for authentic community engagement. And not everyone has found it easy to make that transition from in-person to online. So I've been on a lot of panel discussions. I've been doing a lot of consulting for different businesses and helping them to understand that just because your star performer in person on the stage is so great doesn't mean that he or she transitions perfectly or crisply on camera. But how do we mentor that person? How do we upskill them so that they are prepared to do that? Or do we go out and hire different talent to be on camera for our live classes or video on demand? It takes a lot of preparation. So people have never really seen the back end of what personal trainers and group fitness instructors do on a regular basis to prepare for a session, to prepare for a class, to practice choreography, to choose their playlist. But it's become a lot more to do for us service providers of making sure that our cameras are set up right, making sure that we have the perfect setting on the ring light, because we want the experience to be great for our clientele. They're paying for an experience to take a class with you. Although we know that, you know, we're all giving each other grace, that, you know, this is a whole new ball game for us. Let's give each other grace of shift happens. Let's just keep the show going. Nonetheless, if people are paying for this service, you should give them a good show. Beyonce will never come on stage in her pajamas unless it's like Gucci or something. I'm not equating
But if
myself to
she did,
Beyonce because there's only one
we would
Queen
all
Bee,
start.
but I come quite second, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. I just want to make sure you laugh with
I was
me.
like, if she came on stage in pajamas, now that's my new thing.
Okay, that's what we all do, trend set, right? But nonetheless, I just make sure that I'm prepared, always on time and punctual, making sure that people get what they pay for and we take good care of our people. But personally, Katrina, with the whole shift, it did take a mind shift for myself because my home is my sanctuary in a place. I don't invite just anyone into my space. But when we're Zooming and Skyping and live streaming, you are inviting those people into your space. So for a person like me, who's very much so an energist and very introverted at times, people don't believe that. I mean, I'm on a stage nearly every month of the year, but I am, the way that I recalibrate is sort of an introverted way. So to be like, oh, do I want them to see my room even though they only see this backdrop or whatever, that took a bit of a shift. The cost analysis outweighed, the risk, I guess, because I really wanted to be able to serve the community at large, in the community that I had already established. I didn't want to just let them go. We've already, we understand, we've read the research and the articles and case studies about barriers to entry with exercise, adherence to exercise motivation. So we've done so much. We've done our due diligence to get more people in our group fitness spaces, to get more clients, in our training cages or in our gyms and clubs. Let's not let them go now. They need us more than ever. Exercise, we know exercise, what it does for the cognitive, the brain, and for the body, the spirit. Why let them go now? This is when they need us more than ever. So I just cleared out a space in my little guest room, and that's my studio / library / dining room. Everything goes down in that space, okay?
Yeah,
But
it's what it is.
nonetheless,
What are you gonna do?
it is what it is, but we show up and we show out because that's just what we do, Katrina.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing that both of you touched on, not in a specific way, but in a roundabout way. And especially, I know that you two don't have children, but you have children around you in some way, shape, or form, is understanding to accept your clients or students where they are. You're going to have a little one running around. You're going to have dogs running up. It's not going to be perfect. It's not, the ring light might not always work properly, but whatever lighting you have, whatever situation you have, that it's okay. And having trainers and instructors remind their clients like, hey, it's okay. It is what it is. This is your life. You got 3, 4, 5, 10 kids behind you in virtual school. Like, it's okay. But with that being said, and I'll give a tip of mine that I use when I connect in virtual spaces, but I wanted to talk on energy because it's something that we discussed the other day, as far as, Jay and I were talking about how sometimes you don't get that energy like you would in a group fitness class or from feedback from a client. You just don't, And so for myself, I will say a tip that I have for those watching is that I like to picture like my class in my camera or my best friend in the camera. So I have somebody who I'm speaking to, so that even if I'm on the camera and I'm the only one, that's who I'm envisioning. So what are some tips that you two have as far as how to get energy back or how to come into your session? Not like, hey, we're ready for our session. Let's go. You know what I mean? Not like you would. Just saying. Mary Chris?
I find it, oh, go ahead, Mary.
Oh, sorry. I was like, you look ready. Let Key go. I'll come up. I'll come up.
Well, I find it funny that you say that because in mentoring as a group fitness director, my role for, I guess, over a decade, with getting group fitness instructors, especially young, it's about making eye contact with the class. Mirror imaging is everything. I don't really allow instructors to not mirror image because that creates sort of a disconnect between you and the clientele. Like you wouldn't have a conversation with someone with your back to them. So why would you teach a class with your back to them, right? I understand when choreography is technical, maybe there are times to turn around, but you better practice and face your class. But it's funny now that I kind of have to eat my words on that because because we got to preserve the bandwidth. Not everyone can have their screens on, and then there's lagging and everything. So it's like, is this person on beat or not? Why are they squinting at me? Oh, there's a cat in the view. It's just so many things that's going on that you truly are only really coaching to yourself. And I, like I said in the past, when I would tell the group fitness instructors who I was mentoring is, don't face yourself too much, because then you just fall in love with yourself. You're making love to yourself in the mirror, and you forget about everyone else behind you or around you. But now that's exactly what we're doing. So tips you asked for. One, I have a huge stand-up mirror behind my camera. So I do see myself. So I am making love to myself in the mirror when I'm teaching my classes. One, that's to make sure my choreography is fine, but I'm my audience. I'm talking to myself. It's like, oh, so if I see that this is something that's going wrong in my form and alignment, let me make sure that I'm cueing that to the participants who I don't see. Also, in preparation for my classes, I prepare anticipatory cues of, okay, I know this piece of choreography may be a bit more technical. Let me be sure that I break it down even more than I would in an in-person class, because it takes so much more of my voice and my imaging traveling through space to get to them through their cameras in their homes. And because we recognize, as you mentioned before, Katrina, that there's so much going on in their spaces that we may not be aware of. The dogs, the kids, the husbands, the wives, the mailman, everything else. I really encourage people to keep their exercises simple. Simple does not mean boring. Simple does not mean easy at all, but keep it simple so that people aren't getting additional frustrations of, I'll never get this because the choreography is too hard. This exercise is too hard. I have all of this going on. I'd rather just do my laundry. So you got to find a way to truly reach through the camera and pull them in to engage with you, to make sure that they feel like they're the only person there with you, even though you don't see them. So feedback that I've been getting from participants and clients is how they forget that I'm teaching to anyone else. They feel like it's a one-on-one session, and they forget that we're not in the same space. So that has a lot to do with the verbal cueing that you're doing that has to be heightened, but also the engagement with the consumer or the participant. I make sure I say their names. I call them out. I shout them out. I ask them questions. I would love to hear a woo. I miss hearing woos in the group fitness classes. You know what I mean? When you're like, do you feel it? Woo. The answer is always woo to every question that you
They
ask.
get a woo, anybody?
I would love to hear a woo, but I'm not hearing those right now. But I make it quirky. I make it a joke. I make it part of my shtick of, if we were together, I'm sure I would hear a woo. Or as one of my partners, my business partner, Lauren George, recently at a certification was like, she walked up to the camera, was like, did you just roll your eyes at me? Something like that, because we know that when we tell them to do burpees, there's a lot of eye rolls. So that's part of my anticipatory cues, and maybe even scripting out my dialogue, my exchange with the participants. So it's definitely breaking that fourth wall and reaching through the screen to pull people in with you.
No, I like the mirror tip too, because I know Kia is all about energy. So I know her, and I know her very well. And I know that her and I have practiced like being that hyper person in the camera. But the mirror, I think, is a great tip that I might even steal, that I've actually used just when I'm speaking as far as talking. So watching your technique and watching yourself to get that feedback, that's a great tip. So thank you. What about you, Mary Chris?
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar to Key. It's like really looking to engage with them. So, if I'm doing an Instagram live, I love Zoom because you're able to like be more specific, call things out. With an Instagram live, you're really just looking at yourself and hoping things are going well on the other side of the camera. So a lot of that too is, even with my programming with my clients, and I love the feedback when they're like, oh, like, why'd you do that? Like, depending on the day and whatnot, I like to program something that they know, that they're comfortable with, something to challenge them a little, take them up, and something that's just like, really, did you really need to include that? But in a way that's challenging to them, because it takes them through these levels, and kind of like what Kia's speaking to, like, you want to give them something simple, because also understanding your client and your audience, because you can't actually physically adjust them. You can't be like, what leg is behind and this and that. Like, you have to understand where to pull back, where to let them play, where to be like, this is a freestyle, I just need you to move kind of situation. So programming, I think, has a lot to do with that, and also it allows me to be able to cue and play with them, really. Like, and that when I do my Instagram lives, I say it like, we're here to play. From your feedback that you give me, I create these workouts to play. And I straight up tell them, like, I normally wouldn't do these workouts, but y'all asked for them, so let's help keep each other accountable, keep it real. And because I am looking at myself on an Instagram live and I need to get that energy, music is huge to me. So I'm always picking up playlists. Like, it's natural for me. Like, I'll finish a move, but then I'll just be like, like that's what I need in between them, just so they know that they can let loose and enjoy themselves. Because sometimes, depending on how coordinated someone is, like, you're just thankful they're moving and willing to move and go with that. And figuring out what it is that they're doing to connect with you on that space. So in Zoom, if they're taking a break, they could be writing in the chat. In Instagram live, when I have the comments on, and sometimes I see those hearts go up on the side, I'm like, yes, give me those hearts, y'all. I'm like, I can feel y'all. Let's go, like, pump me up. And you just see it. I'm like, okay, wait, y'all. Okay, who's doing the exercise? Because y'all be pushing those buttons too much. So it's just being playful with them and really including them. And then what's great is, because this community is so big and there's so many other instructors to be inspired by, what I love is, like, you'll start to see different communities come into your group and get introduced, and they'll be like, I'm new here. And you just be like, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And they'll say, like, oh, I'm kind of like this, and you're kind of like this instructor. And then you're able to look at them and see what they're doing and maybe kind of pick up on more of what people enjoy, authentic, to include it with you, to keep drawing in that audience, to include them. And, with my one-on-one clients, because about those kids running around, I mean, I love it. I see them like, oh, it's the cat today, like, just straight up crossing the camera. And they're like, hold on 1 second. And they're like, can you go do your homework? And you just realize they're stressed and they're trying to stay calm for you, because they're like, I got to be good for you. And I'm like, hey, don't worry about it. I'm like, just don't worry about it. And even in my Instagram lives, I've taken my dog and I'm like, look, here's the dog. And I'll just swap with it, because I'm like, I know all y'all at home have dogs crossing out mat. Once you put a mat out, a dog's going to be on there. So just making them feel normal in their space and understanding how to play with them. So, for my semi-privates, like, I have a couple, for example, I'll have, like, my normal routine that we go through, but some days I'm like, okay, let's do partner workouts. And I'm like, let's do standing plank. And, like, you get to push your partner, and just to see them smile and light up and try to mess with their partner, I think it's like, you're really also helping their relationship to just, like, play, because you're on all day. Right. So I think when you just forget about programming just a little bit sometimes and think about, how can I just give them that energy this day? Because I think one thing hit me one time was, they said, like, as a trainer, they're coming to us typically probably starting out maybe uncomfortable, right? They're starting this new journey. And if they're working all day and they have the stresses of the kids, you're their 1 hour of positivity. So you have to understand, when they come in and feel the energy, is this a day to just stick to the program? Should I lighten it a little bit because I want them to feel more empowered? Do I go hard and play with them? Or do I mix it up? And I think that's the biggest thing that you have to understand online as you get to know your clients in your group and your audience. Like, what do they need from you today? And if you have to scrap a program, you scrap a program.
Yeah, I think that's something that I discussed in the NASM CPT Facebook group and the AFAA Group Fitness Instructors Facebook group, which I suggest our followers and our watchers go subscribe to, is to go in there and be a community. But it's really hard as an instructor, because I do both, very much like you two, to say, okay, well, this is what I had planned, but this is the way I want it to go, but understanding to have grace, to accept folks for where they are, to find what techniques works best for you, and also to follow others and learn from others in this space. I've learned so much from the both of you and so many of my amazing colleagues and friends, but we can easily get in this place of, oh, well, I'm just going to wait for life to get back to the way it used to be, when no, this is where we are, and we have to stay connected in these spaces. So especially trainers who are used to just working one-on-one, to Kia's point, I'm very introverted as well. I feel comfortable in camera, but I also have to recharge. So take the time you need to recharge, but then bring all your energy to your session so that it is advantageous for their spending and their investment in you. So I want to just say thank you to you two for taking the time to join me here today. And I know that as we have your names on the feed, we're going to have people be able to find you on social media and connect with you and watch your videos and your sessions and stay connected. But for folks that have questions, please feel free to comment in the comment section and check out our virtual coaching program that just released with Mary Chris's face on it. Thank you again, Kia and Mary Chris, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
And we will see everybody else in this space that we are still socially connected in.